Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. It's Delivering the Perfect Mobile Experience. And we're presenting from Kobiton. And we just wanted to say welcome and thank you so much to coming to our first revamped, very fun webinar series. We have a few ladies with us today that we'll introduce in a second. I just wanted to cover a couple housekeeping items. If you have questions, please put them in the chat as we go along. We'll be collecting them and answering them as we go if we get any, and we'll be following up with them after the fact with some Kobiton product gurus if your questions don't get answered during the webinar. So without further ado, my name is Danielle Profita Briner, and I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Kobiton, and I'll pass it over to my friends.
Sure, I'm Erin, and I head up our product management group at Kobiton.
Hey everyone, my name is Shannon, and I'm the lead solutions engineer here at Kobiton.
Awesome. Yay. We're very happy to be here. Women in Tech, it's Women's Month. We didn't plan this, but we're saying we did. And we're here to talk about mobile experiences today. So hopefully everyone will take away some really key insights. I just wanted to start with, what do we know about mobile experiences? Today we live in a mobile first world. Testing for mobile is hard, really hard, but engineering the perfect mobile experience doesn't have to be. So today we're going to dig into challenges, solutions, and best practices to help you all deliver the perfect mobile experience and mobile excellence to your customers and achieve mobile maturity within your organization. So I wanted to start with a question for our friends here. Think about the companies that you pick up your phone first for: grocery shopping, ride sharing, banking. What are you guys using your phone for the most these days?
Well, I'm embarrassed to say that it's the first thing I do. I pick it up to check my schedule right when I hop out of bed. I then use it throughout the day, whether it's to text my kids about what time to pick them up or to check what time it is across the world when I've got a meeting with a customer or one of our colleagues that's not in the US, to when I put it in the cradle at night and I'm figuring out, what time do I need to get up tomorrow? So it's pretty much attached to my hip, and I think most people's hips these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, same with Erin. I certainly use my phone for a lot of day-to-days. I certainly try to keep my screen time down though, I know, but I can't help but gravitate towards any of the social medias or, any of the news going on, things that just kind of quick glances. For me also, if you look at my screen time, a good bit of it is also just for mobile gaming. So that's something else that I use my device very often for.
It's good to relax and reset that way. Erin's saying the phone being on the hip. I don't know if anyone follows fashion trends. I hope the hip phone thing never comes back. I know
a hip clip.
what is old is new again, but I never want that to come back. What I found while we were preparing for this was that 25% of people are willing to abandon an app after one bad experience, which is almost insane. But I mean, I'm totally a victim to this. If I can't book my flight, or if I'm trying to, catch a ride, if it's not working, I'm going to be like, oh, I'll just look at another provider. And so that's what all of our viewers today are facing, not just, in their day-to-day worlds, being a developer or a tester, but in their greater organizations. So we're going to dig in now to talk about why mobile is harder and the importance of that. So Erin, take it away.
Sure. Well, we'll start with, mobile is hard. And to contrast that, the web browsers have been around for a while and they're pretty established. The standards are established. They do have releases, but they really don't compare to mobile. So you think about the number of operating systems plus the number of device types. I was looking that, iOS 16 has had 59 releases to date. A lot of those are beta releases for developers to test on, but 12 public releases, and that's iOS 16. And while Android has some fewer releases, and they aren't quite as persistent about having you upgrade. I haven't upgraded the latest iOS on my iPhone yet.
I'm also
Okay.
Yeah, they keep asking me, and it's just not happened. So, the number of operating systems that are still in the wild from a few years ago to the number of types of devices, from tablets to devices to different types of Androids to multi-screen. Like there are so many devices. It is tens of thousands of permutations. And what you were saying, if I'm inconvenienced because the app is not working, I'm probably going to go to somebody else. My loyalty is a little bit fickle these days because I just don't have time. So you want it to work on all of these different OS and device type combinations. And that's a lot of things to test.
So as
Even
Erin's describing that, so as you mentioned, Android to iOS, it's really introducing that device fragmentation. So those different platforms that kind of set their own rules to the road. And if you compare that to the history of web and web testing, web is such an exciting time because everyone was in it together, really trying to understand how to bring the World Wide Web to the commercial space. So they kind of standardized the kind of everything of the same. And then when mobile came through, mobile's like, this is great, but we're going to do it our way. So Android's doing it their way. iOS, we all know, is certainly doing their own way. And that can also account, given that device fragmentation, why mobile is so hard to develop and test on.
Yeah, I will be remiss if I didn't mention everyone was on the same web page. But yeah, I mean, I'm all about, I think we have to get everyone on blue texts, but I'm an iOS girl and it's okay.
I will say that iOS 6, I did actually finally upgrade to iOS 16 and they kind of fixed the green text Android double text thing. So if I have a friend who has an Android and I like love their message, I no longer got double text for me. They
Right.
still get double text, but on the iOS side, they actually account for that now. So you can like, love, and emphasize green text now also. So they kind of
Right.
fix that part.
Saving lives. Okay, I really need to also ask Erin, the new operating system features being introduced. I know this is very, very often, but long press, biometric, dynamic island. I've heard of biometrics. I use the fingerprint and the facial ID. It is a lifesaver, unless I'm wearing my dark sunglasses. But long press and dynamic island sounds like I'm making coffee and going on vacation. So please explain those to me.
They're good names. So what this part of the slide is trying to express is that, it's not only that there's new operating systems that is fixing bugs and doing things, they're introducing new features. So the long press feature where you put your finger on the screen and then it can pop up different menus and you can interact with an app in a different way. Biometrics, it started with fingerprint and then it changed to Face ID, and your app has to be able to work with both of those because I don't know about you guys, but I don't always remember my password. So I really like it. And I can just look at an app and it opens with my face. And Dynamic Island, that's recent. That is, I think it's with the iPhone 14 Pro. And it's a new way to interact. And, if you're trying to keep up with all of the great technology and you're trying to keep up with your competitor that might now be showing notifications in the dynamic island, like you need to as well. And so keeping up with all of that and being able to test your one app on the iPhone 14 Pro and the iPhone 14 that have different functionality, that's a lot to really keep in mind when you're testing.
Absolutely. We're gonna jump right in here to the second half of mobile development is hard. Now it's really hard. I know you and Shannon, well, you face people, they'll come chat with us at Kobiton with their issues. Sometimes they're looking for device management. Like, what is the importance of real devices and the access to those?
Sure. So, a lot of developers work with emulators and simulators. They don't have to start with real devices, but these emulators, simulators, they're more the vanilla versions of the operating system. They're not, they won't catch everything. They're not going to have the full feature functionality that a device in your hand would have. So it's critical if you really want your app to perform in the Wild West, worldwide, all of that, then you really have to have real devices. And, I was looking at a study that found that their app providers tested on average 24 operating system device combinations. And that was a couple years ago that study was done. And just think that means you have to have at least 24 devices that someone has to maintain. Someone has to make sure that the cables are all working properly, the devices aren't having battery bloat, that someone might need to touch them. Like, that's a lot of devices to maintain. And so, figuring out your strategy for how you're going to manage these real devices is really important. You don't want all of your testers testing on an Android, of a certain version. You need variety in order to capture everything.
Yeah, you really need that almost like device coverage. So that coverage testing on different device types and then also different OS versions. We went to Developer Week in San Francisco a couple weeks ago, and I love to ask the questions to the developers. Have you ever developed on emulators and simulators? And or only emulators and simulators? And if yes, has there been a defect found in production that wasn't accounted for from a real device that you might have missed from an emulator or simulator? And every single developer just goes, oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. So it is imperative to test on or even develop on real devices so that you can account for the full picture.
You can't emulate or simulate someone throwing their phone down in
Yeah,
frustration.
right.
Yeah, I will have to also take this opportunity to give a shout out to our data center team that does maintain hundreds of devices daily. So shout out to you guys.
Yes.
And that will, yeah, roll us right into, having the right testing environments and the
Sure.
right items here. Yeah.
So once you have these real devices, you need to make sure that they can actually access your testing environments. So you want to make sure that if you're testing whether my pizza order got submitted and I need to make sure that I get a text message on my phone, like something has to talk to something in order to make sure that happens. And, the organizations that we work with vary from really strict financial institutions that their security is locked down and they need everything on premises to other organizations that are more cloud prevalent and need to be able to have somebody that's working in California be able to test with servers that are located in Europe or whatever it might be. So, we need to be able to access our testing environments to get that full use case coverage. And going into the next bullet, compliance. So, just to make things, to add to the complexity of mobile app development and testing, there are compliance rules, and those can be legal regulations for certain industries that have to make sure that they're providing the same level of access to their services to all types of people, to, general requirements. There's W3C accessibility requirements. So making sure that you're not just testing that the functionality works, you're testing that people with all different types of access methods can actually use your app.
I'll be honest, in my career as a quality engineer, we certainly just focused on functional testing, making sure we're hitting those requirements. I will admit that accessibility testing was kind of left by the wayside. And that is it can be so important for accessibility testing because you really want to ensure that your application can be accessed, can be used for all individuals and not exclude any subset of individuals. So accessibility testing, especially meeting those compliance, is certainly important and needs to be brought into the testing cycle.
100%. Yeah. As a product marketer lately, I've been saying, Kobiton is enabling organizations to provide that mobile experience to everyone. You never know who's going to use your app. So you want it to be friendly for everyone. And not last but least, but these app releases are nonstop. And I had in my notes here, it's like keeping up with the Joneses. So
it is. I mean, you can't wait. If there's a bug in your app, you can't wait a month to release it, or you could lose that user to another, competitor.
Yeah, I mean, Instagram went down like a couple years ago, I think. It was like for almost an entire day. People were going nuts. So it's stuff like that. Or, I mean, I don't know if you're at the airport and I had once this app kept logging me out and then it wouldn't show me. I won't give away the airline, but it wouldn't show me the gate. So I had to do the old-fashioned thing and find a monitor in the airport. I had asked like a security guard. I was like, is there a monitor that will show me where my plane is? And he was like, what? And I was like, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm definitely late. So yeah, it's hectic. So I'm really glad, Erin, you dug into those. I know in product management, you run into those things every day and you have to evaluate the most important things to put into our software based on, customer requests and what's happening in the industry. So thanks for going into that. And now Shannon's going to talk about how it doesn't have to be difficult. We can provide mobile excellence with ease.
Yep. So kind of just describing the context of how mobile's hard and so how developing and testing mobile inherently is hard as well. But we can certainly instill some best practices to kind of overcome or kind of combat the difficulty of mobile and development and testing. So one way we can begin by doing that is within the software development lifecycle. So within that mobile application lifecycle, if everyone, so developers, testers, project managers, anyone involved in that application, if we shift the farthest left and begin it in planning, where we can all account for customer journeys, user flows, have a more collaborative type of understanding. Sometimes testers actually tend to be outside the planning period, and we're usually brought in once it's planned, developed, and then testing begins. So of course, as I mentioned, shifting from testing all the way left, we can begin accounting for testing in the planning period, ensuring we understand what requirements are needing to be met, ensuring we're understanding our customers and customer journeys, and then also making sure that testers, developers, everyone who might, any stakeholder is all on the same page. So shifting left is very imperative in an agile methodology so that you can actually get to market sooner. So in getting to market sooner, one thing you can do is, automation is, of course, the goal for every mobile application team. And automation isn't just for the testers or quality engineers to do. So we also have developers who can participate in automation. So traditionally developers, or even moving into a new space for software developers in test, they can automate unit and integration tests, as the quality engineers also automate the UI or end-to-end tests. So you have a complete testing coverage that is automated. And with that automation, you can certainly get to market sooner with a CI/CD pipeline in place. Do you want to take a moment there? I will say, yeah.
Sure. I'm one of the things I was talking with a customer yesterday, and it was just interesting. They've made the move. They have regression suites for testing, new releases of the app, but they have it down to 4 hours and they want it down to 2 hours. Like, just because you have automation doesn't mean you're going to stop there. You're going to make it more and more efficient because they want to release even quicker. They don't want to wait for the developers to get feedback 4 hours later. They want them to get feedback immediately before they move on to another task. So automation is critical, and just the CI/CD pipeline. More and more of our customers are trying to make that happen so that they can have those releases go out as soon as they're ready, versus having to wait for a traditional, 4 weeks. They're moving them to 2 weeks or 1 week or daily or whatever it might be. So, there are one other point just on manual and automation. There are some things and some features that just require manual testing. It's going to be difficult to automate, and making sure that you focus your time on those items and automate everything else is really key.
Absolutely. So definitely automate what you can. And then, as Erin mentioned, some functionality, those testing frameworks just haven't caught up to it yet. I mean, when biometrics came out, when, facial ID and fingerprint ID came out for iOS and Android, let's say if you're using the Appium framework, that didn't account for biometrics or, Face ID, and I guess it's biometrics, didn't account for that until a later time. So if an automation framework cannot support it, you're kind of left with manually testing it. And that's okay. As Erin mentioned, you want to just focus on what you can manually test, focus on what you can automate, and kind of have those two approaches to eventually get you to 100% automation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Going from 1 to 3, as you were describing. Now I did a little research here to make my technical knowledge just as up to par with you guys.
Sure.
But actually moving from step 1 to 3, and then we'll talk about the next steps in the next slide. Moving towards that automation goal, companies can be 24 times faster. So like the girls are saying, it doesn't have to be 100% automation, but adding those automated processes and getting everyone up to speed and making sure everyone has increased collaboration, team productivity, putting, working with a tool that integrates easily within your CI/CD pipeline, that'll make up for that 50% cut Erin was talking about from 4 hours to 2 hours. So it's just phenomenal what technology can do nowadays.
And so given that, so within that CI/CD pipeline, what I like to call it is, as Erin kind of alluded to, is, why wait 2 week sprint or why wait 4 week sprint when you have your CI/CD pipeline in place and you can actually if it's ready to go, you can actually push to market faster. So you don't have to wait 2 weeks. Maybe you can only wait a day, and we'll go ahead and get it. Go ahead and get that app release out, or excuse me, get your application version out to match any latest app releases. And so with that, as we mentioned previously, it's actually very imperative to test on real devices. So developing on real devices, and real devices allow you to, again, really capture the real deal. Nothing beats the real deal like real devices. Gives you the full picture of your end user in mind. And we'll talk about that in just a moment as well. By developing and testing on real devices. And there are a lot of frameworks and tools such as Kobiton, where you can actually connect your CI/CD pipeline, kick off, say, maybe a smoke test suite, or a condensed suite that you can at least get automated. You can kick that off and actually automate it onto real devices as well. So once again, you have the full complete picture and counting for everything in between, especially given those OS version permutations, and really have your device coverage in place along with your testing coverage.
What I love here on this slide, a big buzzword now, is AI. Can we talk about that?
AI is so hot right now, right? So if you haven't heard of ChatGPT, then you might be living under a rock or something, but no, just kidding.
If you can get in, yeah.
So I love to talk about AI. One of my things is that when we talk about technology trends, if you ask, what was the trend 5 years ago? The trend was the cloud. Everyone's moving to the cloud. Everyone's making, coming from enterprise, where you're storing your data, to the cloud. Now, if you think about where we are presently, everyone's on the cloud. And so the next trend of technology is artificial intelligence into the commercial space. And we're already seeing that with a few other commercial tools such as ChatGPT. But then AI can also help in development and testing as well. The way I like to call it is that AI, so artificial intelligence, can kind of help automate the automation process. That is one part that can be why mobile is so hard, or just testing in general. Automation itself can be very difficult. Sometimes it tends to have a knowledge barrier on top of it. So AI can come in and help automate that process for you, whether it is a no code, low code automation, such as scriptless automation, or also the ability to run one manual session, and then an AI engine can actually create a complete Appium script for you, so that can really help save you in that time, so save you in that automation process, so that you can actually reach your automation goals. On top of that, AI can also help you catch more defects, probably faster than your own human eye. And we're seeing that primarily with visual testing. I'd say visual testing in the AI space is the most mature. It's the one that's been there the longest, the one that's actually had a lot of work to it, that's really showed its value in this space. So being able to catch UI defects, especially when you're going from an iPhone to an iPad, or going from a vertical screen to a horizontal screen, anything that might account for any UI wonkiness. Maybe in our functional testing, we're testing so quickly and so fast that we don't account for those differences. We can have AI come in and actually catch those defects for us, ones that we might be missing. And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, some people get a little nervous with AI. They're afraid that it's going to take their jobs, or they're not going to be needed as much. And I see it as completely the opposite. I mean, we were just talking about how everything needs to be faster, done faster, trying to get to market faster. And I like help. I like things to help me. So when technology can actually help me be more efficient, and also find fewer bugs, because if I'm testing, if I'm the quality engineer, I want to make sure that what I say is good doesn't come back to me in a week because customers are having issues, or they can't actually click the button because it's now not on the page properly, or whatever it might be. So AI is really exciting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, certainly not here to take anyone's position, but can definitely benefit the developer or tester in their efforts, as Erin mentioned, really increase that efficiency and productivity. And sometimes if that might actually be a bit of a competitive curve for individuals as well, who are making use of the AI space compared to individuals who are not, because the work kind of shows for itself that pairing with AI can once again really, really help you in your efforts, really combat why mobile is hard, and really help you in your reach automation, be able to catch more defects, and so that you can actually string that into your CI/CD pipeline, so you can get to market faster with less risk.
Yeah. And AI can also take away some of the tedious parts of a job, right? So it will do all the nitpicky, making sure the pixels are in the right place, and you don't have to. So it leaves you time to do more of the other things we were talking about, like the things that have to be manually tested that you can't automate. So
I think we'll have to send out our AI for all ebook after this to our attendees. But I kind of want to call it now, AI is your new intern. So
great.
yeah, no, I'm very into that, very into the help. Like Shannon mentioned, ChatGPT is super helpful. Just for a variety of reasons, not just for work, but we use it for recipes actually at home, and it is just so cool. So our users, when you're done reading our AI for all ebook, you'll have to go make a cool recipe on ChatGPT.
That's too funny.
Yeah. So let's talk about the customer journey. So obviously we're living on our phones. Like Erin said, she puts her phone in a cradle because she loves it so much. I should treat my phone better. But what is the journey? Like, what is the end goal? You want to have happy customers, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but that leads to more revenue and just happier employees, happier customers. It really is a circle.
Absolutely. So we kind of alluded to it a little bit in the past slides of just accounting for the different user flows. And so we can really capture that customer journey. So for mobile app development and testing, it's important to kind of put on your user hat. So, who will be using your application so that you can account for their navigation, you can account for their different journeys, and so that you're not missing anything in that development or testing space. So every customer journey is different. There's multiple different journeys and user flows for one application. So kind of adding to why mobile is hard. So not only do you have device fragmentation and OS permutations and things to account for from that end, maybe that vertical, but now you also need to account for the different customer journeys within your application, so that you're not missing anything and that it's intuitive to your end users. So they have a positive experience using your application.
What I want to dig into? Oh no, you go ahead, Erin. I just have like a technical question for Shannon.
Well, I was going to make the customer journey can be literal. I, the other day, was out and about and realized I needed to order a meal for my family. And so I got on one of the meal delivery sites, and I went to my last order and I said, order that again. And all of a sudden I get a little pop-up that says, you do not appear to be close to this location. So not only do I have to figure out, it realized, use GPS and said, they're not near this location. Are you sure this is where you want it to go? Which, there could have been a chance that I didn't realize that I was somewhere else, or that my last order went somewhere else. So it was pretty awesome. But I think, coming up with an understanding that with mobile, you truly can be anywhere, and you have to make other considerations of Wi-Fi, cellular, whether or not they're in a different, in different locations, whether they order something and they arrive at the store and automatically get a notification. So there's the happy path of, this is what we expect our customer to do. And then there's the stuff like what I did. I was not at the location where I wanted the delivery. So
yeah. So in my quality engineering experience, I kind of loved doing edge case testing. I think that's what everyone here can kind of relate to, is like, how can I make this break? What can I do? Or what can I, because it's so funny, because it happens in the wild. I will have a defect come to my table or from production, and I'm just thinking to myself, how the heck did this person even get to that state? And so you really have to account for those customer journeys as well, saying, okay, well, let's see if I might not understand this application and I click a certain way, or I'm navigating in a certain way that just absolutely derails me from what it is that I'm trying to do. As developers and testers, we need to account for that, so we can kind of put in those guardrails like Erin's mentioning, that says, hey, looks like your device is not near this location, are you sure you want to deliver it there, kind of thing. Because I imagine in that experience, someone probably had a different address and got it delivered somewhere else, and then they had to do a complete refund because maybe they realized that it was wrong or different in some way.
And then you had some really hungry children.
Yes, and so you don't want that.
Actually, as an example, just of that is I love online shopping. So, you can do that on your phone, you can do that on your computer. However, your computer is not going to tell you that your delivery address is set wrong. I have moved a few times, and I have been victim of sending my stuff to different addresses.
Yes.
And on my phone, that would not happen. So it's almost like, we live in this immediate, like, I need now society. And so that's kind of where mobile developers and testers, like that's what they're facing.
Absolutely. So with that in mind, you're going to need a full testing coverage, like I mentioned, with your end user in mind. So with your customer in mind, with the practitioner or whoever will be using the application in mind, and we can really account for this testing coverage traditionally with functional testing. So that's always the important piece of testing, is to ensure that in that planning period, the requirements that were defined, that we're hitting those requirements, likely with our end user in mind, so that we can functionally ensure that our application is working as expected, which is, I know, probably one of the most common terms, and one that I definitely gravitate towards more often than not. Even my real life is, well, it's working as expected. So we're good. So that also is not just UI testing, but also user experience testing. So another popular trend is that you actually have UX designers coming into the team, into the software development team, to help create wireframes, or to help create those intuitive, happy paths, so that the developers and testers can account for that as well. So once again, you have a positive user experience. As we've kind of mentioned previously, like, within this webinar, if you have a negative experience on an application, I myself, if your application takes too long to load, or if I'm tapping on a button and it's not taking me to the next page and there's an issue or defect or something, I'm likely going to delete that app and just use the next competitor app, because my user experience wasn't positive. It was negative, and that can, really lose money in a sense if users are no longer using your application given that. So that app abandonment can be real with poor user experience.
Absolutely. That brings us right into our next slide here, which is talking all about experience. This is something I'm kind of passionate about, just because experience is such a buzzword nowadays. It's like you are like user experience, mobile experience, customer experience, like
Right.
experience. Like, what does that mean? It's really just, someone told me once the word modern was just a buzzword. And I mean, it's true. It's like experience is a buzzword. It's also, though, like what you're living day to day. So the mobile experience is like the brand recognition. The brand makes you feel this way. Like, some people only fly like one airline because they have that experience. That kind of blends right into the customer experience. So, like, what is your end result when you're interacting with that brand or that enterprise company that has this app? So was booking your car experience easy? Was your flight smooth? And did you get Wi-Fi? And were you able to receive your bags at the right carousel? Or did you know your gate number, like I said? Or, you go check out at like a home goods store, and was it fast? And did they bring the bags to your car? Or did you have to go in? And how did that work? And so it's really interesting and unique how I think the mobile experience spans all of these things that really aren't just on your phone. However, the better the experience is on your phone, plus just the general customer experience from the brand, it really does result in an increased ROI. So, if you're watching this webinar and it's like you're a QA manager, or you just work in QA, like, Shannon, we took her from the QA field and made her a Kobitoner, which is now she's an edge case QA person.
Yeah. I'm going rogue. Just kidding.
I know. But if you go back to, someone who you're reporting to, or maybe you're a director and you're like, I know how to increase our ROI because we're not automating today. And they're like, why? You can show them this slide. But it's really phenomenal how just taking all of these steps and the things that we've spoken about today and accounted for really can propel a mobile first business to the next level, if like that's what you're really passionate about. So we're gonna wrap it up with this slide and give you guys back some of your time. But I know, Shannon and Aaron have really dug into the answers to how can you get closer to that perfect mobile experience. It's not always perfect. Sometimes it's working as expected. But then what are the results? So I wanted to just toss it to you guys to talk about some of these things, because I know you're so passionate about them.
Sure. So, I mean, critical is making sure you have the right tooling. So picking, or just any tooling, but pick tools that match your team's skill set, or that can help grow your team in those skill sets, so that you can automate wherever you can, create that CI/CD pipeline, and really bring your releases to market faster.
I think this is really what accounts for that kind of that shift left approach. So in that planning period, make it collaborative, make it a conversation as a team, not just developers, what they want to work on, not just testers, what they want to use, but as a team, communicate. And as Erin mentioned, create or not create, but pick that right tool for the whole team. Be able to plan for all the above, what you might expect or interact with the different permutations for the devices, but also for your customer journeys. So really having that increased collaboration, really having being everyone on the same page, even from that planning and beginning period, can really set you up for success in your mobile application efforts.
And I'd say, you know, there is a tool out there for every company, or a set of tools for every company. You know, some companies don't have the ability to host their own devices. Some companies have to be on premises. Some companies only have 2 testers, or they may have a tester in, I don't know, Australia, and they might have a tester in the Bahamas. So, you know, being able to support all types of people in your organization, there are tools out there that will support the situation that you need. So
Absolutely.
If I didn't know any better, it sounds like you're talking about Kobiton, but yeah, so we just are very glad for all of our visitors today, guests to the webinar, to tune in and listen to us chat. And we'll pop right here. We wanted to let you know that mobile is hard, but it's not unattainable. So I know it's some interaction throughout the webinar here, and we'll be reaching out. So our Kobiton product gurus, as I like to call them. And please, you know, look out for some follow-up and reach out. We're not shy. You can find us at kobiton.com or email us at sales@kobiton.com. And also, I have to plug right now, we're doing a Mobile Madness, March Madness themed mobile device testing bracket on LinkedIn. So if anyone's on LinkedIn, please find us there. And thank you so much. All right.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.